Two people earn $8,000 a month. Same city, same bills, same take-home pay. After 5 years, one has $12,000 sitting in a savings account. The other has a $340,000 portfolio generating returns while they sleep. The difference wasn't income, discipline, or sacrifice. It was one structural decision made in month one. Here's what nobody tells you when you finally start making real money. Saving and building wealth look exactly the same from the outside. Same restraint at the checkout line. Same no to the weekend trip. Same feeling of doing the right thing. But under the surface, they run on completely different rules. One keeps your money safe. The other puts your money to work. Think of it this way. A savings account is a vault. Strong walls, locked door, nothing gets in or out. Your money is protected, but it just sits there. Wealth building is more like a farm. You plant the money, tend it, and over time it grows into something much bigger than what you started with. Same seed, completely different outcome. Most people in their late 20s and 30s are doing everything right by their own understanding. They're spending less than they earn. They're putting money aside every month. They feel responsible, but responsible and strategic are not the same thing. You can be disciplined every single day and still arrive at the wrong destination simply because you were using the wrong map. That is what this video is about, not motivation, not generic advice about cutting your coffee budget. This is about the exact line between protecting money and multiplying it, why most people never cross it, and the one shift that changes everything. By the end, you'll see your money completely differently. Section 1, meet Marcus and Diana. Same age, same income, same city. They even work in the same building. Every month, both of them set aside $800 from their paycheck without fail. Neither one buys things they don't need. Neither one carries credit card debt. By every visible measure, they are equally responsible with money. 5 years later, Marcus has $48,000 saved. Diana has something closer to $112,000 in growing assets. Same discipline, same starting point, completely different result. So what happened? It wasn't that Marcus was lazy. He showed up every month. He did the work. It wasn't that Diana got lucky or found some secret investment that tripled overnight. The gap between them didn't come from effort. It came from structure. Marcus built a habit. Diana built a system. This is one of the biggest traps in personal finance. We are taught from a young age that discipline is the answer. Save more, spend less, be consistent, and those things matter, they really do. But discipline is just the engine. Structure is the road. If the road leads the wrong way, it doesn't matter how hard the engine runs. You'll still end up somewhere you didn't plan to go. Think about two people on treadmills, both running at the same speed, same effort, same sweat. One treadmill is in a gym going nowhere. The other is on a path through a city, covering real ground. From the outside, they look identical, but one is moving and one is not. That's the illusion of discipline. It feels productive because it requires real sacrifice. Saying no to things you want is hard. Sticking to a budget every single month takes genuine effort. So when you're doing all of that, it's natural to believe you're on the right track. The feeling of discipline can mask the absence of direction. Marcus wasn't doing anything wrong exactly. He was being responsible. But responsible behavior pointed in the wrong direction still misses the target. He was optimizing for safety when he should have been optimizing for growth. Not instead of safety, but beyond it. This is the part most financial advice skips over. It celebrates the habit without questioning the destination. It tells you to save more without asking what saving is actually supposed to accomplish or when saving stops being enough. Discipline will get you to the starting line, but the decision you make about where to send that money, that's what determines where you finish. And most people never stop to make that decision consciously. They just keep running, feeling good about the effort, never realizing the treadmill isn't moving. Section 2, before we go any further, let's get precise about what saving actually is. Not the feeling of it, not the habit of it, the function of it. Saving is risk removal. That's it, that's the whole job. When you put money into a savings account, you are making a trade. You give up the chance to grow that money in exchange for the certainty that it will still be there tomorrow. No risk of loss, no chance of gain beyond a small amount of interest, just protection. That is what savings was designed to do, and it does that job very well. Think of it like a seatbelt. A seatbelt will not get you to your destination faster. It will not improve your fuel economy or make the drive more enjoyable, but if something goes wrong, it could save your life. You don't skip the seatbelt because it doesn't help you drive better. You wear it because protection has its own value. Saving works the same way. An emergency fund is one of the smartest financial moves you can make. 3 to 6 months of living expenses sitting somewhere safe and easy to reach. That money is not lazy. It is doing exactly what it is supposed to do. It is standing guard. The day your car breaks down or you lose a client or a medical bill shows up without warning, that money steps in and keeps everything else intact. Without it, one bad week can unravel months of progress, so saving is not the enemy. Let's be very clear about that. Anyone who tells you saving is a bad idea is skipping an important chapter. The problem is not saving. The problem is when saving becomes the entire strategy. Here is where most people get stuck. They open a savings account when they get their first real job. They build the habit, they watch the number grow, and it feels good, genuinely good, because they are being responsible and they can see the proof. So they keep doing it. Month after month, year after year, the habit becomes the plan, and the plan never gets updated. But a savings account has a ceiling. Even in the best conditions, the interest rate on a standard savings account barely keeps up with inflation. That means the purchasing power of your money is essentially standing still. You have more numbers on a screen, but those numbers buy roughly the same amount they did when you deposited them. Sometimes less. Using a savings account as your only financial tool is like only ever wearing your seatbelt but never actually starting the car. The protection is real, but protection alone will never take you anywhere. Saving is a foundation. Every strong financial life needs one, but a foundation is not a house. At some point, you have to build on top of it, and that requires a completely different tool, one that doesn't just hold value but creates it. Section 3. So if saving is risk removal, what is wealth building? Wealth building is deployment. It is the act of taking money you have earned and sending it into systems that generate more money on your behalf, not someday, not in theory. Actively, consistently, while you sleep, while you work, while you live a life. This is the shift that changes everything. You stop being the only source of financial output in your life. Your money becomes a second worker, one that never calls in sick, never asks for a raise, and never clocks out. Let's make this concrete. When you put money into an index fund, you are buying small pieces of hundreds of companies at once. Those companies have employees, products, customers, and revenue. Every day those businesses operate, your ownership stake participates in that activity. You didn't show up to work for any of those companies, but your capital did. And over time, that capital grows in line with how those businesses grow. That is what an asset is, something you own that produces value beyond what you put into it. A rental property collects rent every month, whether you are awake or not. A stock holding grows in value as the company behind it expands. A business equity stake pays dividends as profits are distributed. In every case, the structure is doing work that you are not personally doing. This is fundamentally different from a savings account, where the only way to grow the balance is to add more of your own money. With wealth-building instruments, the balance can grow from two directions at once, from what you add and from what the asset itself generates. Now, none of this means wealth building is without risk. It isn't. Deploying capital means accepting that sometimes the value goes down before it goes up. A stock portfolio will drop in a bad year. A property can sit vacant. A business investment can underperform. This is the trade-off. You give up certainty in exchange for the realistic potential of growth. That is the opposite of what savings offers, and that is exactly the point. The goal is never to choose one and ignore the other. It is to understand what each tool does and use them in the right order for the right purpose. But here is what most people miss. Wealth building is not complicated. It does not require a finance degree or a Bloomberg terminal or a broker in a glass tower. The most straightforward wealth-building tool available to almost anyone is a low-cost index fund inside a tax-advantaged account. Simple, accessible, and backed by decades of evidence. The barrier is almost never knowledge at this point. Information is everywhere. The real barrier is the mental shift. Moving from I need to keep this money safe to I need this money to do something is not a financial decision first. It is a mindset decision. And that decision is the actual starting line for building wealth. Section 4, let's talk numbers, not to overwhelm you, but to show you something you cannot unsee once you see it. Two people. Same discipline, same $1,000 set aside every single month for 20 years. The only difference is where that money goes. Person A puts their $1,000 every month into a standard savings account earning 1.5% interest per year. That is actually generous by most real-world standards, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. After 20 years of perfect consistency, never missing a single month, they have approximately $293,000. Person B puts their $1,000 every month into a diversified index fund, averaging 8% returns per year. That is a historically reasonable figure for a broad market index fund over a long period. After the same 20 years, the same perfect consistency, they have approximately $589,000. Same person, same effort, same $240,000 deposited out of pocket, but one account has $293,000 and the other has $589,000. That is a difference of nearly $300,000. Built not from extra income, not from extra sacrifice, but purely from structure. Let that land for a moment. The $300,000 gap was not earned by working harder. It was not the result of taking wild risks or getting lucky on a single investment. It grew slowly and quietly in the background, compounding month after month, simply because of one structural decision made at the beginning. This is what compounding actually means. When your money earns a return, that return gets added to your total. Then next month, you earn a return on the new, larger total. Then again, then again. Each cycle, the base gets bigger. Each cycle, the growth gets slightly larger. It starts slow, almost invisibly slow, which is why most people underestimate it. But in the back half of those 20 years, the growth becomes extraordinary. More than half of Person B's final balance was generated in the last 7 years alone, not from new deposits, but from the compounding of everything that came before. Person A's savings account does compound too, but at 1.5%, the effect is so small it barely passes inflation. The engine is running, but it has almost no fuel. Here is the part that should genuinely bother you. The cost of the structural mistake is not felt immediately. In year 1, the difference between the two accounts is almost nothing. In year 3, it's noticeable but not dramatic. It is only in year 10, year 15, year 20 that the full weight of the decision reveals itself. By then, the window to correct it easily has narrowed considerably. This is why the decision matters most when you are young and the amounts feel small. Not because small amounts change your life today, but because time is the actual ingredient that makes compounding work, and time, unlike money, cannot be earned back. Every month you wait is a month of compounding you will never recover. Section 5 here is something important to understand before we go any further. The people who stay in save mode are not foolish. They are not lazy or uninformed. In many cases, they are some of the most careful, thoughtful, hard-working people you will ever meet, and that is exactly why this trap is so effective. Safety feels like wisdom, that is the core of it. When you have worked hard for your money, when you have sacrificed and budgeted and been responsible, the idea of putting that money somewhere it could lose value feels almost irresponsible. The savings account feels mature, it feels adult, it feels like the thing a serious person does. And so you do it and you feel good about it, and nothing in your immediate environment tells you that you are missing something. Think about what investing actually feels like the first time you consider it seriously. The market goes up and down in ways you cannot predict or control. There are terms you half understand. There are horror stories about people who lost everything. And at the end of all that uncertainty, someone is asking you to take the money you worked extremely hard for and place it into something that offers no guarantees. Of course, that feels uncomfortable. That discomfort is completely rational. So you stay liquid. You keep the money where you can see it, where you can touch it, where it cannot disappear overnight. And that feeling of control is genuinely comforting. There is real psychological value in knowing your money is exactly where you left it. Nobody is dismissing that. But here is the quiet problem with that feeling. Control and progress are not the same thing. A savings account gives you control over your money while the world moves forward without it. Inflation rises, asset prices climb, other people's portfolios compound, and your controlled, protected, perfectly visible balance slowly loses ground in real terms, even as the number on the screen stays steady or grows slightly. There is also something else at play. Many people are waiting until they know enough, until they feel ready, until the timing feels right, until they have done enough research. But the research never feels complete because the topic never stops expanding. There is always one more thing to learn, one more risk to understand, one more reason to wait just a little longer. The preparation becomes a permanent holding pattern that looks and feels like responsibility, and nobody around you is challenging it. Your family is proud that you are saving. Your friends see the balance and think you are doing well. There is no alarm, no warning light, no moment where the world stops and tells you that staying in save mode has a cost. That is what makes this so hard to see from the inside. Every signal in your environment says you are doing the right thing, and in many ways you are. You just have not taken the next step yet, and that step is closer than you think. Section 6. So, where does saving fit, and when does it stop being enough? The answer is not a feeling or a rough guess, it is a sequence. A specific order of financial moves that builds each layer on top of the last. Most people never see this sequence laid out clearly, so they either do everything at once and do none of it well, or they stay at step 1 forever without realizing there are steps 2 through 5 waiting for them. Here is the framework. The first move is your emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of living expenses sitting in a savings account that you can reach immediately. This is the one place where saving is not just acceptable, it is mandatory. This money is not meant to grow, it is meant to protect everything else you are building. Without it, one unexpected expense forces you to pull money from your investments at the worst possible time. The emergency fund is your foundation. You do not build on sand. The second move is eliminating high-interest debt. If you are carrying credit card balances at 20% or higher, no investment in the world reliably beats that cost. Paying off that debt is the equivalent of earning a guaranteed 20% return. Nothing in the market offers that with certainty. So before you invest a single dollar, the high-interest debt has to go. This is not optional. The third move is tax-advantaged accounts. A pension scheme, a retirement account, any government-approved structure that lets your money grow while reducing your tax burden. These accounts are one of the most powerful tools available to ordinary earners, and they are chronically underused. The tax savings alone can meaningfully accelerate your growth over time. If your employer offers any kind of contribution match, that is free money, and not using it is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make. The fourth move is broad index exposure. A low-cost fund that tracks a wide market index. This is the engine of long-term wealth, people, not stock picking, not chasing trends, just consistent, diversified long-term market participation, simple, boring, and extraordinarily effective over time. The fifth move is selective assets. Property, individual stocks, a business stake, or other investments that require more knowledge and carry more specific risk. These belong at the end of the sequence, not the beginning. Too many people start here, skip the earlier steps, and then wonder why their financial life feels unstable. The reason this sequence matters so much is that each step protects the one after it. Your emergency fund protects your investments. Eliminating debt frees up cash flow. Tax-advantaged accounts maximize what you keep. Index exposure builds the core. Selective assets extend it. Saving is not absent from this picture. It anchors the entire structure. But it is the first stage of a journey, not the journey itself. The goal was never to save forever. The goal was always to save well enough that you could eventually stop relying on saving alone. Section 7. There is a single moment that separates the two people from the beginning of this video. Not a lucky break, not an inheritance, not a promotion that changed everything. Just one quiet shift in the question they were asking about their money. One person asked, "How much can I save this month?" The other asked, "What should this money do?" That is the structural decision, and it changes everything that comes after it. When you ask how much you can save, you are thinking about money as something to accumulate. The goal is a bigger number. The strategy is restraint. The measure of success is how much you manage to hold on to. That is a valid starting point, but it is only a starting point. It was never meant to be the whole journey. When you ask what this money should do, you are thinking about money as something to deploy. The goal shifts from accumulation to activation. You are no longer just collecting money. You are directing it, assigning it a job, expecting a return. That one shift in thinking restructures every financial decision that follows. So what does this look like in practice? It starts with a simple audit. Look at the money you currently have set aside. Ask honestly what it is doing right now. If the answer is sitting and waiting, the next question is what it should be doing instead, and whether the conditions are right to make that move. If you do not yet have 3 to 6 months of expenses in an accessible account, that money has a job. Its job is to be your safety net. Keep it where it is. But once that foundation is in place, every additional dollar you set aside deserves a more specific assignment. Start with the simplest available option. In many countries, there are tax-advantaged accounts designed specifically to help ordinary people invest for the future while reducing what they owe in taxes. If that option is available to you, it is almost always the right first move beyond your emergency fund. You are getting a structural advantage before you even choose a single investment. From there, a low-cost index fund is not a compromise or a beginner's tool. It is one of the most effective long-term wealth-building instruments that exists. You do not need to pick stocks. You do not need to time the market. You need to start, stay consistent, and let the structure do what it was designed to do. The decision does not need to be perfect. It needs to be made. A decent plan started today will outperform a perfect plan started 2 years from now almost every single time because of what you already know about compounding and time. You have been disciplined. You have been responsible. You have done the hard part of spending less than you earn. Now comes the part that actually builds the life you are working toward. Stop asking how much you can save. Start asking what your money should do. That is the line. Everything is different on the other side of it, Section 8. Let's go back to the beginning. 2 people, same $8,000 a month. Same city, same bills, same starting point. After 5 years, one has $12,000 in a savings account. The other has a $340,000 portfolio. You have spent this entire video learning exactly how that happened. Now let's close it properly. The person with $12,000 was not reckless. They saved consistently. They avoided bad debt. They lived within their means. By almost every visible measure, they did what they were supposed to do. But they never updated the question they were asking. They kept measuring success by how much they could hold on to, and the structure they chose reflected that. Safe, stable, and quietly falling behind. The person with $340,000 did not earn more. They did not work longer hours or take wild risks or stumble into a fortunate investment. They were not born into money or handed an advantage that most people don't get. They simply asked a different question earlier. What should this money do? And then they built a structure around the answer. That is the whole story. Not talent, not luck, not timing. One structural decision made at the beginning, executed consistently, and left alone long enough to compound into something significant. The gap between those two people is not a gap in character. It is a gap in framework, and frameworks can be changed. That is the part that should genuinely excite you, because it means the decision that created that gap is available to you right now, today, regardless of where you are starting from. You do not need to overhaul your entire financial life this week. You do not need to become an expert or spend months researching before you are allowed to begin. The most important move is simply the first one, taken with whatever you currently have available, pointed in the right direction. So here is your one action for today. Not this week, today. Look at what you currently have saved beyond your immediate needs. Pick a number, even a small one, that you can move into a growth-oriented account or instrument before the end of this week. Not because the amount will change your life immediately, but because the decision will. The moment you stop treating all your money as something to protect and start treating some of it as something to deploy, you have crossed the line. You are no longer just saving, you are building. 5 years from now, you will look back at the version of you watching this video, and the only question that will matter is whether that person made a decision or kept waiting. The two people in this story were not born different. They did not stay different because of fate. One of them simply decided earlier. You just spent 20 minutes learning what they knew. The only thing left now is to do something with it.